Hello, hello. Testing, 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 testing. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Hello. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Yeah, there's a red box over by the sinks. A Sharps box. Yeah, like a red plastic box by the sinks in the south room. Yeah, it's on the table. All right. Fuck. All right. Can you hear me? Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great.
Could I pin out my 3 works? Could I finish out 3 of them? Or just one?
Well, we're a little bit short on space, so pin up as much as you can. We'll
As much as I can. Okay.
start with one, but I mean, if you want to start pinning up, you can just stick them to the wall right there. That'd be great. Yeah, go for it.
Do I use okay, so I use the pin.
Yeah, let's use the pins.
Oh, yeah, sounds beautiful. Thank you. Oh, you can go. Right. Spot. Without question. Okay.
Morning. Hello.
You need some help?
I'm good.
Akima was gonna stop by. She was asking if there's a good time. Anytime?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just stop by to say hey or have a meeting. Yeah. She's welcome anytime. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little demo, but it'll be recorded. Working away.
Second.
Cool.
Still talking.
Models, yeah.
That's almost every technique.
So do I.
The last of this.
Okay, cool. I may start the demo. Yeah. Good morning, my friends. How are you guys? Great work on the collages, looking super cool. I'm going to start a live demo now of assignment 5, specifically focused on kind of the second part of it, like the new part. The first part of assignment 5 is the same as assignment 3, where you're translating information from one of your new 3D models, like onto the 2D space of the page. The big difference is we're going to talk about scale, and we're going to talk more specifically about line weights and inking and kind of how to transform these pieces of paper into, quote, architecture or buildings. So you guys can stay here, keep working on your models. You can watch passively on YouTube. Got a little YouTube stream set up. You can come watch me. I'm going to try to do it twice today. We'll see. Otherwise, it'll be recorded as well. But I want today to kind of be productive for you. So if you're not finding it productive to like sit and watch, like you can jam on your models, or even ask your TAs about assignment 5. I think they can explain scale. At 10:45, we'll kind of break and plan on doing a little pinup, a little show and tell of whatever progress you've made on your models. So please bring like first wave, second wave, and maybe your favorite drawing. Maybe two of your favorite drawings if we have space. Models will be in the south room. Drawings will be sort of in the south room. I see some up on the wall here. That's great. We can do that. We can also use the wall in the gallery. We just want to carve out a little bit of time today that you guys can like intentionally look around the room and find some more inspiration and kind of celebrate the progress that we've made so far, rather than just working every hour this week. Sound good? Cool. So give me 5 minutes and I'll get started. Morning. Yeah. It works. Good morning, team. How is everyone? Hope you guys are doing great. Models are looking choice. Strong work. I look forward to seeing them all laid out today. We'll plan at 10:45, like 11-ish. Kind of put our pencils down, knives down, and we'll do a little show and tell of whatever progress we've made so far. Specifically on the models, we'd love to kind of lay them all out and take a look. But we'd also like to see some of your drawings. So given space and time, plan on just showing off like 1 or 2 of your favorite drawings so far. All the models we're going to put in the south room. Drawing some in the south room, some we can put boards up around in here or in the gallery space. There's not going to be enough space over there. Prior to that, very shortly, I'm going to start a demo of assignment 5, specifically the kind of new part. The first part of assignment 5 is the same as assignment 3. So pick a model, translate it, kind of measure it, draw it, and accurately translate it into 2-dimensional space. The new thing is going to be thinking about scale. So what is scale? And inking and kind of thickening these pieces of paper into, quote, architecture, making them more like building materials. So I'll kind of be focusing on that part. I want today to be productive for you. So if it's productive for you to sit here and keep working on your collages and maybe watch passively over the YouTube stream, that's cool. Or watch the recording of it over the weekend, that's cool. Or watch the second, I'm trying to do a second demo at like 10. We'll see how fast we go. That is also cool. So no obligations to like sit and watch me today. If you would like to sit and watch, come join. The goal would be that over the weekend, you're kind of wrapping up wherever you're at in the models and kind of transitioning into starting your assignment 5, even if you're not 100% done with the models. Sound good? Cool. So give me a couple minutes and I will get started. Nice. Can you hear me? How does it sound in the headphones? Yeah, cool. A little microphone going. Good morning, team. Can I These are looking awesome. Keep up the good work. It's so cool to see these things come alive. Today, we celebrate the models a little bit. So at 10:45, plan on putting your knives and pencils down. All of your models, so wave 1 and wave 2 over here. We're going to have more models and less space than we did before, so make them nice and tight. We'll do a nice tight grid. I actually don't really care if it's by TA. They can just be a big grid of them. Favorite drawing. 2 drawings. So we're not going to have space for like all the drawings right now, but we'll put the Homoso boards up along the wall. We can put some boards along there. We can put boards over there. We just want to get your drawings up off the table and give them space so you and your classmates can walk around and get some inspiration. I think it's very important to kind of pause every once in a while and do these reviews. Prior to that, I'm going to give a little demo of assignment 5 over there. It's also on the YouTube link that I sent y'all. Primarily, I want you to be productive and happy this morning. If being productive means sitting at your desk and working on the collages, maybe watching passively on your computers, that's cool. If being productive means watching the recording later and just working in studio, that's cool. If you want to just sit and watch and ask questions, that is also cool. There's kind of lots of ways to digest this. I'm going to focus on kind of the new aspects of assignment 5. So the inking, weights, a piece of paper into like art materiality and scale. Talking about what is 1/8 inch equals a foot, what is 1/4 inch equals a foot. These are things that your TAs can also talk to you about today. So if you want like one-on-one with your TAs, you can do that. The first part of assignment 5 is like the same as assignment 3. It's measuring one of your models, translating it onto flat space. So that's also something that you could get started with today in class if you want. What I recommend is wherever you're at with the models, at some point in the next couple days, stop and move on to assignment 5. So if you have ideas in progress, like put your knife down and pick up your pencil, kind of oscillate back and forth between drawings and models. Next week, we're going to start up with the next wave of models, 3 more models, so it's kind of ongoing. We're accelerating the pace a little bit in these last couple weeks before the midterm. There's a lot going on. I hope that you guys are using the resources, TAs and myself, to ask for help if you need it. But I also want to make sure you guys pick up making sure that you're uploading your work. So snapshots of models, scans of drawings, scans of sketchbooks. Don't wait until like the middle and the end of the semester to document your stuff. Get in the habit of doing it weekly. You can always re-photograph the models, for example, and make them a little bit nicer. But I'm noticing the Google Drive is fairly empty, and we should fix that. Cool, so I'm gonna get started shortly. Feel free to join me or keep jamming. And have a morning. Cool.
Thank you. I had issues printing, so they're still white.
So white, yeah. If you guys have issues with the printers, like save your really messed up prints and we'll try to get you refunds. Grab a seat. Not the best transcript. Can you guys see? I mean, you're welcome to like come watch this. Otherwise, like, is that visible? I can also get like a big computer monitor and bring it down here. That's why I say, yeah. You can also like bring a stool and like perch. See how many people take me up. It's a lot less than last time. Are your classmates coming? Do you know? Or are they going to stay? Watching? Okay. We'll give them a few more minutes. How's it going? with this? Be honest. Are you enjoying it?
It's been tough to push through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, being under the weather, it's kind of like part of life, but it's also a big part of like being. Are you guys first years? Yeah, it's like just getting used to college rhythm. Did you get COVID tested? Good. You should. Hello. How are you? Good. Feel free to grab stools and pull up. How many more there are around? Or a chair. Cool. Small group. We can get started. Record. And if anyone's curious about like this setup of this recording, like this is a communications class, I can talk about it more, but we'll jump into the assignment. Okay, so I'm going to start with kind of the construction drawing. Do you guys remember this from the first one of this model? I'm going to sort of skip the first part of this, which would be to take a new model and to make this again. So to make like the X-ray plan where we're looking down on it. So all of these lines are overlapping with each other. And then, let's see, what's my orientation? This way, turning it, and we did an elevation or like a plan of this side. And that's all like X-rayed down into it. The big change between this and the last assignment is we're not doing elevations and we're not doing like a roof plan where we're looking at the top of it. Both of our drawings are going to be cuts, so or like slices through it. So the section, you know, we're slicing vertically through it, and the plan where we're slicing horizontally. So we will go look at more examples. You guys have started with your precedent studies. I talked to Emily Matthews, who is the director of the Ricker Library, and she's going to get us cycled through the Ricker Library next week. So has anyone been to Ricker yet? Just one? Cool. My favorite place on campus. I learned way more at the Ricker Library than I did in any of my classes when I was a student here. It was like a lot of information. So we're going to bring you in and specifically to looking at plans and sections and all that. But yeah. So to start, make this so this drawing where everything's X-rayed, and then I'm just going to overlay a fresh sheet of trace. Not so fresh. There's proper fresh one. So wasteful. And so on the assignment, it kind of says that there's like 3 layers you should be doing. First layer is what I'm cheating and using the last one. The second layer, which would be like your design drawing, which would also be in pencil. And what that literally means is you're designing into it. And then your third layer, which would be like an ink kind of final pass. Obviously, like you might have more. You might have like a couple of design layers. Like you might try it a couple times before you commit to like your final inked version. Okay, but the main thing is that we're going to have in the plan, I'll use the same section. So we're going to cut right through here, looking this way. And then in the elevation, we also have a section cut. We also have a place that we're cutting through this thing. And this one, maybe I cut through the kind of top area there so I can see more information. I can draw another line. This one is looking down, right? The word plan usually refers to this when you're cutting through something. So we can look at some construction documents later. When we do actual architecture for a job, you do plans and sections like this all day long. And you'll have a book, a thick book that will have hundreds of plans and sections. And so you would label this. So it should be like section A and like plan 1 or something, and you'll have 1 through 100 section, 3 sections this way, 3 sections this way, detailed sections that might show something specific, and we kind of reference between the two. So it's good to have these lines which allow us to correlate between plan and section. Okay, that's kind of the first step. We have a ground line. Let's draw a ground line in our section. So this makes sense. This is my ground line. Here's my plan. This is up. So if I was to have a little person, he'd be standing on this ground line. Which brings us to this thing. You guys use this yet? Have you opened it, taken it out of your plastic? Cool. So this is called an architect's scale. It's essentially the same as this thing, which is a ruler. The ruler here has got, this one has metric and imperial on both sides, so millimeters and centimeters and inches. Since we're in America, we get to torture ourselves and use inches. If you are from a different country and or if you plan to do work in a different country, you will learn metric system. And there's a whole different set of scales, or architect scales, that folks in the rest of the world use. The metric system, we're going to use the imperial scale, which is all these fractions. So you want to make sure that your scale has fractions on it. If it doesn't have fractions on it, it is either a metric scale or it is an engineering scale. I don't have mine with me, but engineers and civil engineers and landscape architects, people doing really large master planning, use a different scale. And theirs is more like 1 inch equals, say, 50 feet. And what that refers to is like 1 inch in the drawing refers to 50 feet IRL in real life, and so the point of having this scale is that we can measure what's in the real world and replicate it at a little drawing that someone else could take a ruler to and measure and then build and then kind of go back and forth from the real world to the drawing world, back to the real world. And so that's normally how it's done. What we're doing is we have a little object and we are going to apply scale to it to enlarge it, essentially, within the space of the drawing. So this is a landscape scale. An architect scale, imperial architect scale, is something like this. So you have like 1/8 inch equals 1 foot, 0 inches. So that's the drawing. And then real life is the other side of the equals little equation. Okay. What that means is, so just looking at this little guy, I can take a regular ruler and I can measure it and I can say that is 5 inches. And then I can do math in my head. Know that an inch is made up of how many eighths? How many eighths of an inch? 8, right? So you can say 5 times 8 is how many? 40. So that's 40 feet. So this 5-inch long line at 1/8 inch equals a foot scale represents 40 feet in length. Okay, so most older architects you work with don't use these. They just use rulers and then you do math. And it's an inch. The normal ruler here has 16 tick marks, so 16ths of an inch. And usually we don't go smaller than that. It's kind of hard to measure things that are smaller than 16. Really fine carpenters will do 32nd of an inch, maybe 64th of an inch. I've worked with some carpenters that are like, yeah, we use the tiny little marks. If you're like a machinist engineer who does like turning metal and making like really custom metal parts, you might be at like 1,000th of an inch, like something that's even more tighter tolerance. So what we're getting into is discussions of precision and tolerance, really. Cool. So you could use this, or we could use this guy. This one has all sorts of little fractions on it, and we're going to find the one that's an eighth. If we look on that one, or that leg where it says an eighth, there's an eighth on the left side and a quarter on the right side. You'll notice there's 2 sets of numbers. There's little numbers and big numbers. Ones on the top are the 1/8 inch scale. The ones on the bottom, the bigger numbers, are the 1/4 inch scale. So you have 2 scales on the same leg. One reads from left to right, the other one's right to left. The way that this works is I can hold up, let's see, we're using the 1/8 inch, so there's a 0. And so I would hold up 0 at the beginning of whatever I'm trying to measure. And then I can just kind of read along and I can see that now it says 40. So the math I just did in my head, I don't have to do the math. I can just look at the numbers on the scale. If for a 1/4 inch, I would, rather than using this side, I would shift my scale and use the other side, start at 0. And we can guess half that is 20. So 20 feet. So a 1/4 inch times 4, or times 5, yeah. So 4 times 5 is 20. You kind of do a little bit of math in your head. There's lots of scales on here. There's 1/2 inch equals a foot, 1 inch equals a foot, 3/16 inch equals a foot, 1.5 inch equals a foot. You can see 1.5 inch equals a foot gets really big. So if I was to measure this thing at 1.5 inch, we're actually at, don't actually use this one that much. 2, 3 feet 4 inches. It becomes really big. So you would use kind of a larger scale like that if you were going to do like a detail of a staircase or like a handrail or something. Something you need to like draw nuts and bolts. For a building like this, like, so we're just putting in little people. I have some little people. I lost my other. Here's like 2 little people. This little guy, if I hold it up to the 1/8 inch scale, about 5 feet. So this is like the size of a little person inside of your model. You can get little scale people like this at Blackline, or you can make your own. You can like make out a piece of wire, a little rectangle of chipboard or something. And then since we're doubling the size on the drawings, right? We're going to be doubling the scale too, at least to start. So these drawings are going to be at a 1/4 inch equals a foot. 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, which is this size. So if I hold a little person on there, he's like 5 feet, or she's 5 feet. And if I put them on my section, standing on the ground, that's how tall a person is going to be. So we're kind of moving from 1-to-1 to scaled, which means that we can have little people now kind of injected into the space. That kind of generally makes sense, the idea of size and scale. So what you could do right away is draw some little people. So maybe on our section line, we can take our 1/8 inch scale and we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm 6 feet, so we'll do 6. That's 6 feet. And we can draw a little head, shoulders, little feet. I cannot good at drawing people, especially sideways. So that's a person at 1/8 inch equals a foot. At 1/4 inch equals a foot. Same thing, 6 foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Halloween person. 1/4 inch equals a foot. Okay. So to start, I'd like everyone to make these drawings at 1/4 inch equals a foot. If you want your building to be bigger, the people are smaller, feel free to try drawing it at 1/8 inch equals a foot. The smaller in scale you go, the less information you can squeeze into the drawing. If we're at 1/4 inch equals a foot, we can draw things like doors and the frames around windows and like handrails and all sorts of details. When we go to 1/8 inch equals a foot or even smaller, 1/16 inch equals a foot, then we start to like lose information just because our pencil can only draw so much drawing. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of speed trace this. So the first drawing is a construction drawing. We'll call this one a design drawing. And you can do it in pencil. I'm going to move sort of quickly here. You can move a little bit slower. But the main goal is, so I know I'm cutting through this model if I was taking a blade and like slicing right through this thing. So I basically want to indicate like where, so I think it's the pink one, this pink line. That line is at the cut plane. So the cut plane is where vertically or horizontally I'm slicing through. And there's like an imaginary plane that we're slicing through. That cut plane is your picture plane. So when we're looking at the top-down view of this thing, our picture plane is like up here somewhere. Now we're like moving the picture plane like down into this space. What that means is where that plane intersects with geometry is going to be our heaviest information. It's going to be our heaviest line weight. So this piece of paper, I'm going to start with that, is going to be our heaviest one. It starts off as a single line. Many of you have been drawing like a little bit of an offset to show like the thickness of the paper, especially if we're looking at the edge of it. At this point, since we're doing a scale, this is no longer paper. This is concrete, or this is like stacked wood logs, or this is hay bales, or this is like mycelium bricks, or this is like literally any material that you can think of. And part of the precedent study is you go and like research how different architects draw different things. And I will bring in some more books and show you, your TAs will show you more examples. For now, it's like you're going to experiment and just try something. An easy way to start is maybe to offset it like a foot. Say it's like a thick concrete wall. Like start there. And so at 1/4 inch equals a foot. We can measure a little tick mark for a foot, and that would be the thickness of my offset. I'm just going to make it a big fat concrete wall. And again, I'm moving a little bit fast. Like you could rule this, like you could be very careful with how everything goes. But we're going to do another layer on this where we're going to do ink. So maybe I save my precision, my time, and my patience for that one. We're going to draw in the little columns. Maybe the columns are just what they are. They're just the same outline, but doubled. Maybe they turn into something that's like more massive. Maybe it's like small at the bottom, or small at the top and like big at the bottom. So you got this like cone thing that comes up. Maybe they turn into little crosses, like Mies van der Rohe, like some sort of like steel cross section or something, whatever. You can kind of invent into it. So we're cutting through there. Typically, you guys will talk about this when you're cut through for floor plans. We usually do it like 3 feet above the ground, kind of here-ish, because that's where most windows are. And so when we cut through something, we want to show the most information. Because we're lazy, we don't like to draw things twice. So we try to do one drawing with lots of information rather than 2 drawings with a little bit of information. For our cut plans, it can be wherever you want, but same idea applies. I try to cut it somewhere that you're going to learn something about your design. So this one's pretty simple. I'm cutting through this paper. What else do I see? I got this thing, this object that's floating up above, and we're cutting through it. If your paper is moving, you might need to like get your ruler out and start to like measure like how high this thing is angling off to the side, like where is that height at my imaginary cut plane. This is obviously weird and difficult, so you kind of eyeball it. But I know I'm slicing through this red thing somewhere. And there's going to be a cut line. So I'm going to kind of say there. I'm going to thicken it. We're slicing through like here and here, right? If I keep looking down, I still see the bottom edge of this. So all this. But now all this part is above my cut plane. Things that are above you or things that are like my feet below a table that I can't see should be rendered in dotted lines. So you can moving quickly, do some dashed lines. So that implies that there's a thick cut line there, and we'll make that thicker with the pens. I can see the edges here, and there's like something up above. And this is like under a roof, is what that kind of implies. And then things like this piece of paper, I can see the whole thing, but I'm not cutting through it, so it's just like a line. And similarly for this thing, and then I've got the other wall. And maybe I treat the wall similar to this would actually turn into dashed lines as the wall goes under this. So we're really thinking about, I made a mistake here. I could erase it, or I just like cross it out and be like, when I ink it, be smarter. There's another piece of paper that's sitting in here somewhere. We'll work it out. Okay, so that's most of it. And then there's these grids on the floor, but I'll just add those as texture a little bit later. Capiche? Sound good? Okay, so let's repeat the process for the section. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did before, and maybe I can use the colors a little bit. We'll start at the top with this thing. And this thing I drew here is our duplicated offset cut line. And we want to translate that information up into the section. Same way we translated all the other information. We can take our T-square, and we can take the point where it intersects with our cut line. So there and there. And I want to translate that. So I got a T-square, I got a triangle, and I'm taking that line and I'm drawing it up, right? I'm projecting that line. This is probably the most confusing part about section drawing. Then kind of reiterating. We can keep going. Okay, and so I've already got in my elevation like the height of this thing as it's floating through, and I've got my my plan line that kind of shows that. But if I'm cutting through at this point, we're going to see really like this line is actually like a slice, like a diagonal slice across that thing. So you're going to see right on this edge here, like an offset, and then it comes over the top of it. So there. And I may be exaggerating the thickness. We can do something else, but that's our pink. Cut line and plan, cut line and section of this object. And then same deal, we're cutting it, and we're looking at the edge, so I'm still going to see all this, the bottom of it. Okay, what else am I cutting through? You've got this piece of paper. It's a different color. This piece of paper, it's intersecting right there. It's actually intersecting twice now because I've offset it. I've got two lines. I can take those two lines and I can think about where is that pink shape that I had drawn, where that is intersecting here. Actually, it looks like it goes all the way to the top. I'm using my eyeballs too. You could always go back and measure it, see how tall it is. 1.5 inches, so like 3 inches. Blue. So this rectangle is this thing that I've sliced through, that part of it. And we're looking this way, so you're still seeing some other information. So let's do that. It actually goes all the way to the top. Okay, and I think that's it. That's all we're cutting through. Maybe there's a line here, which is, let's do a different color. Can't see that. Orange and orange, so I'm cutting through this wall. I thicken the wall so it has 2 points on it. This one is floating off the ground a little bit, goes to a certain height, so let's say it's there. And like these three shapes are like the three things that I'm cutting through, plus the ground. Maybe don't forget that, it's important. pops up. Okay. So at this point, you could add in some more information. So this is a design drawing. You can make yourself, you can trace like the back of the geometry that I already have drawn here, the geometry that's behind the cut line. But you can also say like maybe this thing, I take the edge of it and I project it down and it's actually like glass walls maybe. And so I can take like these lines and these lines actually go all the way down to the ground. And this one goes all the way down to the ground. And I can imagine like in there are a series of like straight lines, which would be like the mullions or something. And we could talk more that like the texture of this wall is maybe different inside of this building than it is over here where it's like outside of the building. What else can we do? So we can also say like maybe this wall, rather than being like a single thickness, like maybe if I drew it one way in the plan, but I'm looking at it in section, I'm like, maybe it should actually be like even thicker. It's like a person is standing in this hallway. That, you know, they can look up and there's light or something, or we cut some windows into it so this person can look out. Like you can kind of start to cut and add some stuff onto here, you know, within reason. It's not going to make 100% sense. A big point of this is that you're not figuring everything out in 3D. So if I like thicken this so that it becomes like a tube that someone can walk into, I'm not going to like redo my collage and figure out how that tube intersects with the paper and figure out all this. I'm just like inferring or kind of projecting like into what this could be just in a plan and section. So you're changing what this is through this drawing. And then you're going to do more models that maybe learn something from the drawing. Like we're kind of constantly moving forward rather than like just trying to be faithful to whatever the last thing we did. Make sense? Maybe it'll make more sense in a second. Okay. We talked about this a little bit. Two different types of vellums in the world that you guys kind of have access to. 1000H. This is the cotton vellum. It was made up of like shredded cotton. It's really nice. You can buy this for a single sheet for $1.50 or something. I forget exactly, $1.75. Inflation's real. Not too much. And you can, there's packs of 50. You can buy a whole pack. Split it with your classmates or just buy single ones. You might need a couple. Because if I lay this, he's got some bigger sheets, but most of them are this size, like the 17 by 22. If I lay it over the drawing here, you can see that it doesn't really cover both of these, especially if I extend it out beyond my other boundaries of my base. So you're going to kind of want to center it on the drawing a little bit, and then you might want to trim it to kind of make it a little bit more even and not to take up as much board space as we go. There's also Yupo, which is he cut us a deal on this, so it's kind of it's a little bit more expensive, but a very similar price point per square foot as the 1000H. It's a little bit more smeary. I think I have an example. So it's like from a couple days ago, like I can smear it a little bit, and on the 1000H. No smear. It's kind of like the biggest difference, I would say. So if you do, like the Yupo is really nice to draw on. It's made of dead dinosaurs, oil, rather than cotton. So it's just premium, and it takes different markers and pencils and ink and paints and all sorts of different media really nicely. You just have to be careful not to smudge it. You will do it. So just be aware, and if you're working with the Yupo, you can get yourself it's like a blank sheet of paper for your hand to rest on, so you don't smear it too much. And you kind of be careful, like work maybe from one side to the other. I'm throwing this out there because I do think it's kind of fun to work with, even though a little bit frustrating. You can always like go back and add more ink for little things that you smudged, and also know that we have Photoshop. So if you're like working for many hours on something, you know, do something horrible to it, don't freak out. Like you can just Photoshop it. It's okay. Cool. So you can see how this drawing or this sheet fits my drawing like pretty nicely. I'll maybe have to not overlap too much with the edges of it, and I'll have to do like a really tidy title block on it, but these do fit our drawing. This is why I didn't want you to overlap the edge of the model too much. So if you like overlap the edge of the model too much, just use 1000H. It'll work better. Okay, I'm going to use 1000H, and I'm going to move her down. Is anyone like inked yet? Inked something? New one? How'd it go? Yeah. How'd it go? Was it satisfying? Yeah. I always find them to be very satisfying. You guys have like a full set, right? Of pens? A whole bunch of them? I know I talked about this before, but I'm just going to reiterate. You can get away with 3 pens. Like you can get away with 1 pen. I've seen let people make beautiful drawings with like a 0.5 like ballpoint quality pen and just do multiple passes. Or by having heavier or lighter line weights. But like a 0.02 or a 0.01 would be like your lower end. A 0.05 is a nice like middle, and then like a 0.08 or like a 0.1 or I think I have a 0.12. I might use that. Yeah, 0.12 is kind of aggressive. 0.12, 0.08, 0.05, little 0.01. Or 0.02, you can see I start to get a little bit thinner. And then we got like even thicker ones. So you can get like a chisel tip. These are nice for like big fat lines. Or you can use a sign pen. These are cheap and also give nice fat lines. Or like a felt tip marker. These are kind of in the middle. The black's not as nice on these Papermate ones as the fine liners. Or you can go to the other end with like a 0.1, we get even, that's not 0.1. Like 0.1, which is like really thin, or 0.003, which is like crazy thin, or 0.005, like really tiny. So the whole idea here is we have like photography, blacks to white, and good photographs have nice blacks, they have nice whites, and they got nice grays. They have contrast within it. So we're using the contrast within these different line weights to make this drawing legible, and ideally legible from like far away, and legible enough that it makes people want to like zoom in and have to look close and then start to see like the details that are rendered in like the lighter line weight. Good drawings are compelling. Will move your body to go look at it. Cool. So one way to do this is to start with like a medium line weight or a light line weight, like your 0.03 or 0.04 or even your 0.02, and just like draw everything and do everything in like a single line weight, and then come in with like your heavier line weights on top of it to add contrast. Or you can just start drawing the thick cut lines first, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to use a 0.12 and have your model, like be looking at it, but also like look at your underlay. If things are getting too crazy with underlays, we can put some paper underneath, say, one of the layers, and then it gets rid of some of the noise. You can focus just on whatever the latest. But I know this wall, I'm cutting through that. And the cut line wants to be the thickest, and I'm cutting through all of these columns. So maybe I'll do the columns first. A little exaggerated, big fat columns. I'm going to do this cut line. Maybe at this point, I'm like, I should use a ruler. This is going to be nice. And do a combination like we've been doing of ruled and hand-drawn lines. I'm going to be careful here not to smear it. Ideally, I'm working from like left to right across. Got the paper out, or I've washed my grubby fingers, or I've put on cotton gloves and cut off the fingertips. There's lots of ways to do this. The combination of ruled line with hand-drawn line gives you, I think, like a beautiful contrast. We'll see some examples today. I'm gonna freestyle the rest of this. You will practice confident, long strokes rather than that. Don't do that. You will make mistakes. It's okay. All right, so I've got the wires I'm cutting through. I got this top wall I'm cutting through. I've got this. I'm going to say that this piece of paper is like a different material than this, so it's not going to be as thick, perhaps. It's going to be like a thinner, let's call it like a rolled sheet steel, or we can even add in some like structure to it, but for now we'll just say it's thinner. Okay, that's my cut, the heaviest cut line. At this point, maybe I throttle down to a thinner pen and I do the edges of things. So I've got this. Running up. Another 0.05. And I won't ink the whole thing here. I'll just do part of it and get you guys on your way. So this goes up to there, and then the rest of the leaf is like a dash line. There's different dash lines in the world. This is called line types. We have line weight and we have line type. We could do like dot, 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 dot. We could do dash, 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 dash. You could do dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash. You could do squiggle, 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 squiggle. I mean, there's like infinite like types of lines that you could do. I'd say do things that are above and things that are below separate. That way you have a variety. There is no right answer as to what line type you do use. Okay. Maybe some of these wires aren't straight, so I want to show like them like moving down. I'm loving the rendering of non-straight wires I'm seeing. Some of those. You've got this leaf guy. Old trick, but it works. You'll notice, so this one is kind of drying out a little bit. Don't hold your pencil or pen straight down, like kind of hold it off to the angle a little bit, and it'll give you better results. But sometimes you do have to kind of like rock it up and down, and you can put in more like pressure with your fingers to get different results. All right, good. We've got some other walls. We'll call this one. Squeeze in there. We've got this flower. And we're gonna say that it goes under this wall. So we're gonna see it like dashed line or something like under the wall, and then it comes out. I'm not drawing these very flower-like. We've got this other wall down here. Which is below. So it starts to turn into a dash line, maybe below. Intersects a column in some weird way there. Sorry, watching paint dry. This is underneath this at this point, so everything is dashed. Then it pops out from underneath, so it becomes solid. I'm adding in, some inflections and different things that maybe I didn't draw on the first layer. All right, and then maybe I come around with a lighter line weight and do the bottom. And maybe I don't do dash lines for that because for whatever reason, I think maybe you don't need to draw everything. You can make executive decisions that say, my drawing's too dense. I don't have room for like whatever this information is. There's lots of real estate here that you can work with. Since we've blown this up, like you can put in lots of information. But you can already start to see that on first glance, I can tell like what's heaviest and what's lightest. The light things are maybe farther away. To reiterate that, we add what we call poché. Poché is a word that exists in the English language, I think, only for this, which is the gray stuff in between the walls. So if we cut through that wall, there's drywall, there's probably a stud, there's probably not insulation in there, there's probably some like dead squirrels or something. There's stuff inside that wall. We're not going to draw the dead squirrels. We're not going to draw the bricks. We're not going to draw the installation. We are going to draw gray stuff. So you can take your pencil and you can shade in between your cuts. Maybe in the columns, I make it a little bit darker, so I have even more contrast between it. When you guys look at your precedent study, you'll see that architects do this differently. Some architects will have the outline and then fill in the poché with black. So there's no like line, it's just like a solid thing. That's acceptable. I think you lose an opportunity for more contrast. Why would you do that? So just leave it gray so we can see the edge of the geometry a little bit better. You can come in and kind of smear this stuff. 1000H is great because pencil erases off it without pulling up the ink. So you could erase away extra pencil. And the same deal if like you were to use a mechanical pencil on your drawing as like an underlay and then ink on top of it. You can pull up the pencil with an eraser. A kneaded eraser works really good for this purpose. I don't have one, but the soft ones, I think they sell those at Blackline. Okay, so you're adding in some poché into there. We can maybe take a thinner pen, like a 0.02. Let's go even thinner, 0.01. Too many pens. Let's do 0.02. And add in some information. So like the grids down here would be easy. So I can take my, I can take my ruler, and to make it weave might take a little bit more effort. I'm just gonna do some strips on here. I can make it weave. If I was sitting down for a little bit longer. By laying down this sort of texture on the ground, that should go like past that. You see how it stops at the wall and keeps going underneath. So that also helps now show me that things are below and things are above. The surface of this, I could draw like flower petals or like literally whatever I see on here. But maybe it's now like a wood deck. And so I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to take my ruler. It's going to be made of wood pieces. Better shape like that somehow. Maybe I'm like, this is board form concrete, and it is has some sort of image into it, and or maybe it's some kind of terrazzo like aggregate into the concrete that has a texture. So you can do a little stippling, or it's terrazzo that's got a thicker aggregate, so you do little shapes and stuff. Maybe it's little V shapes, something that repeats. Maybe it's herringbone floor pattern or whatever. Like literally any hatching, we call this, or texture, you can use to represent some sort of real world materiality. And it does not have to be one-to-one to whatever this is. So for this example, like maybe I don't do straight lines because it's a barn or whatever. Maybe I do. Maybe I say it's like a photograph that's been translated into the formwork of the concrete, or it's carved into wood or whatever. Or maybe you say it's a disco ball material now, so I'd make it out of like little squares or something. But the main point is to use texture to push difference and to show that like this shape is made of something different than this shape. And that maybe it's used differently. So the next thing would be to add people into it. Cool. So there, I'm not going to go through and do the whole thing. The other thing I might maybe add, so after you get like your cut lines, your poche, your edges of geometry, it's like your 0.05, your textures that you're thinner, like 0.02, 0.01. I would maybe think about coming back with like a 0.05. Mine's getting a little worn out. And for example, the outline of this shape, give it a little once over. And the lines will be a little bit off. I haven't used like a big fat marker like this. I've used a thin one twice, and you can see that kind of that graphic outline separates it, makes it seem like this thing is really floating above the ground, which it actually is. And say this one is thinner than that because this wall touches the ground. They're both kind of at the same point, so they don't have much variation or much differentiation. So like a secondary pass going through getting silhouettes and outlines of things will really help. Cool. Let's do this section real quick. People in plan. You could do people in plan. They look weird. It's like a head and shoulders. Like head, shoulders. Like that's what you see. You're looking down. Maybe you see like the arms like pop out. and legs. They're weird. Don't have to draw people in plan. There's maybe better ways to draw people in plan. I've seen some like got the arms and the head. And, but I think it's better to draw them in section. It makes a little bit more sense. Cool. I'm going to this. It's a Lipo. It's pretty tight, not a lot of wiggle room. So. Okay, so same deal. Starting with the thickest, your ground line is going to be the thickest. And for that, you can use like a chisel tip or the 0.12. One thing that I didn't really mention is my landscape architects are doing this more. You can move the ground line. And so kind of raise it up or down. So maybe part of your thing is like underground. Or maybe your ground line's like at an angle or something. And so imagine like we're set into a hill. So part of it is like underground. But for simplicity's sake, I want to keep it straight. We have a straight ground line. Goes across that way. I haven't rotated mine, so like that maybe is cool if you guys like rotate your models like before you draw them. I kept it kind of simple here. Okay, so we got that. Where's my fatty? We can start with this top one, but I'm cutting through. So same deal. I'm going to look at the thickness that I drew here in plan. And I'm going to try to make the thickness the same in section. I'm exaggerating a little bit. This pen is like a little heavy. I would say maybe do like your 0.8 or something. You can always add more to your cut lines. All right, I've got this piece of paper down here, which is this guy. So that's going to be the same thickness as I've done that. Let's use the ruler. Boom. And I'm cutting through this one. And actually, I want to have drawn in little line there that indicates my section line. Sometimes people do like the dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dash, like all the way across their drawing for that section line. I think it's in the way. This makes sense. We can read that. But now I can look at this and I can see, okay, I'm supposed to do a section there. Okay, so then I can go down to my 0.05 and fill in information. So if I'm cutting through, looking at this way, I'm still going to see the outline of these. This line, as it goes down, I still see some of this other information behind it. Follow these over. We can see this whole flower on the backside. I'm going to add in my elevated platform. We could have that be the ground line that kind of jogs, but I'm just going to say it's like a different material. Platform or a plinth, we'll call it. And such. Kind of a scoop flower thing. And move this line there, and the line keeps going behind, so it turns into a dash line. The wall up above. I'm just tracing. See here. There are dot dash lines, and then this is a dash line to show that wall kind of goes in behind. All right, and then there's some other ones up top. And I'd say I don't see the other stuff. Okay, so that's kind of the edges of geometry, the cut lines. I haven't really done textures. Come in with our pencil. A little bit harder on the Yupo to smear. You can say I can smear the ink with a pencil tip, even with it. I kind of smear a little bit there. So be gentle. Sharpen your pencils, and then you can use the edge of it. Try to wrap this up. Okay. And we can add texture, but we also like invent. So this is kind of what I was talking about. I could have made this a big loop. Let's say that this thing is actually going to be a series of steps or something, little terrace places that people can hang out and sit. So maybe I just add in some lines. I'm not thinking about it too much. I maybe measured this, so they're like 18 inches tall. It's kind of like step height. I'm using a thin line weight. And then like in plan, maybe I want to show that. And how would you show like steps in here? Maybe it's Chicago lakefront, like big concrete. Seating terraces. Right, and then maybe I'm doing some of that texturing of some sort that happens in plan, and then I would want to do the same texturing maybe on the wall of this thing. Maybe I'm going to add in some of those seam lines. Maybe I'm saying that this is like tilt up concrete panels. Get some cotton gloves. You can use pencils to add like textures, and it'll be a bit thinner and go away, especially like a hard pencil. You just gotta smudge a little bit so you can let this come back. You can like spray this with fixative or like hairspray or urethane or something to fix it in place. Okay, what else can we do? Add little people. Trace this guy. Maybe here, there's like a bench. Kind of S-shaped bench, and there's some people like sitting on it. So maybe here, I'm like, there's a little bench that's the same distance. Do this sideways. Just put some people sitting on the benches and kind of showing that there's life. Maybe this bench has got a big planter. With the tree. Lots of ways to draw trees. Or maybe here I'm drawing tree and adding in a little bit of life into it. Maybe we talked about that this is a glass wall that kind of comes down on the outside of it. All the way down from here. A really thin double line. Got to increase our brown line a little bit. What do window walls have? They have mullions. An easy way to make something look like a window is actually to draw the mullions. Add some poche because we're cutting through the mullions. Right? Maybe glass wraps around the backside of it, so all of this open space that I see in there, maybe I render it with some really thin lines every once in a while. They go behind this wall, and they pop up. They go behind this wall, and they pop up. I can take these mullions and run them across the backside. I should have lined them up one side or the other. Right, maybe the underside of this thing is just like a series of like wooden ribs that runs across. Sorry. Get my even thinner. Let's go to like a 0.05. This is where like considered repetitive movements add grain and kind of a small scale beauty to these drawings. Especially with like this line, which is like a big, heavy, free-handed, curvy, organic line. Let's put in some kind of regular straight lines that look like they were made of materials that were produced in a factory, which how most materials are produced. Right, you get the idea. Maybe the underside of it is like not straight. Maybe it's like a vaulted roof thing, or it's a series of like wood beams on there. So maybe I'm like drawing little beams, kind of like we're seeing here, like a beam that's underneath the deck. Or maybe it's a series of vaults. Implies some sort of structure. I'd maybe do this before so I don't have this extra line in there. Maybe there is these people are sitting here. There's a tree. There's a roof. I don't know. Maybe there's a chandelier that hangs down. Glass bulbs. Hangs off from the ceiling. Shines light. Like you can kind of breathe light, so like quite literally into these drawings by adding not only like the thickness of geometry or the architecture, but like stuff, plants, people, furniture, animals. Maybe there's a little koi pond or something. Is it making sense? Any questions? Those of you who are here? Start with just below. Yeah. You get more information if you do also the stuff that's above. What I've done here is you can sort of see like the above line is a dotted line and the below line is a dashed line. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Start with what's below. Usually we would only, like, if this is for a construction drawing, like you would mostly draw what's behind things. What we would draw above usually is only like structure. That's usually important to understand like where the grid, structural grid of something is. So we dot that in. Only if it was like something really complicated geometry, then there was like a particular reason that you needed to like explain a hole in the ceiling up above, or skylights are a big reason. Like maybe draw skylights, because then when you look at a floor plan, like you know that there's gonna be light like shining at that point. We do, and we're not going to talk about this year, but you'll talk about it later, reflected ceiling plans. And so when you make a construction drawing set, you have your floor plan, and we actually do like 4, 5 to 10 floor plans. You'll have your structural floor plan. You'll have your architectural floor plan, which has like walls. You'll have a finished floor plan, which has like, is it wood or concrete or like custom recycled tile, carpet tile or something, like the finishes of it. You'll have an electrical plan, you'll have a plumbing plan, you'll have a mechanical plan, you'll have maybe a detail plan, you'll have a key plan, and then to show the ceiling, we'll have a reflected ceiling plan. So it's basically imagining that same cut, like 3 feet above the floor, 3.5 feet above the floor. Rather than looking down, we look up. And that way you draw little rectangles for the lights and the conduits and the structural, like all that stuff. So we are making design drawings, so we're kind of smushing a bunch of that information like all together into one. The main idea is to articulate the life or the transformation of this thing from paper into stuff of architecture. Not necessarily like a building, not necessarily like a cafe or anything real, but it's architecture in the sense that we're dealing with construction materials. Things have thickness, and or it's considering gravity a little bit, perhaps. A lot of this stuff, like you guys have never done before, so you're just gonna like try it, and it might look funny, and we'll look at it and we'll talk about how to make it better. Questions? Sorry. No. Yeah, the construction drawings, the kind of messy one. Yeah, so that's like an X-ray plan and X-ray elevation. So this is a plan, and you can see everything just overlaps. I'm not making a distinction between like what's above or below. Yeah, and so a roof. This one, the first one you did for assignment 3 is technically a roof plan. So if we're looking at an object and we're drawing the roof and not cutting, that's a roof plan. If anyone says to you the word plan, it's assumed that it means a cut plan. I'm using the word cut plan and cut section or cut plan and section because it's confusing. Like, am I looking at the top or am I cutting? But in the biz, in practice, like a plan is always cut. No, yeah, just 2. Yeah, pick a cut horizontal, pick a cut vertical, and draw those. To get there, to your point, like you might want to draw an elevation, or whatever direction we're doing the cut of the section, like draw that elevation, just get started. Or since you may be getting better at this, having done it a few times, like cut straight to the section. Yeah, maybe I would. So I've kind of done most of the design in the pen one here, but maybe this layer, my second layer, call it a design layer. I spend more time, and I in pencil add those things. Maybe I do 2 layers of the design layer. Testing 3 layers, 4 layers, like testing out different ideas before I commit to ink. Maybe I have a layer in between where I'm inking on trace. And I recommend this, like ink your first one on trace to practice before you use the more expensive material. Or go straight to the expensive material and try it. It's nice. It's fun to draw on. But yeah, the deliverable for this is like 1 plan, 1 section. You can do more. You can obviously have a section, and then we call it a cross section. So in the other orientation, or you could do 2 plans, one that's low, one that's high, or do a roof plan and a cut plan. It's all extra. This will take you a little bit of time to kind of set up. So on the little model, we're using it's 1/8 inch equals a foot. And then since we're doubling the size of everything from this model onto the drawing, I'm saying we're going to 1/4 inch equals a foot on the drawing. So this little person is like walking around in here. Yeah. That said, and especially those on the recording, if you want to do 1/8 inch equals a foot for both of them, that's cool. Like we can even do 16th inch equals a foot. So a person would be like a 1/4 of this size, half of an 1/8. But then they get really small, and then it becomes really hard to, like you wouldn't draw window mullions, like you wouldn't. For this one, technically, we would have like another line in between it. Yeah, I think you can at some point like kind of choose the scale, but stick with this because it gives you a lot of. You can fit a lot of information into the drawing at this size, like stuff like the offset of the columns as they go down, or even showing that this wall is maybe not straight, but it is kind of off a little bit. Like I could offset this line in different ways. Let's offset it. It goes in here and goes out. So now I'm looking at like part of the side of the wall. This piece of paper, I'm looking at the thickness of it. Like you still probably want to show like the offset thickness of things. All the same rules apply that we've kind of talked about with line weights. And this will, once we pin them up today, and we'll pin up again next week, and we'll pin up at the midterm. Like you'll look at everyone and be like, "Wow, yeah, totally. I should, work on a little bit more contrast or obviously this tree sucks. Like maybe I'll have a better way, a simpler way to do a tree. I think graphic outlines are really helpful. So like this tree, I can come on with like an outline of it and put it in the middle guy, and then even like maybe a bit of tone. And then the bench is hard to see now, so maybe it's like clarify the bench. Under the tree. Maybe the bench needs like it's easy to like obviously to add too much ink and like make it too dark, and it's hard to, you can't really erase. This is a practice, and especially for those of us who are fluent in Photoshop, there's no Control Z, there's no like undo, can't go back, you just have to keep moving forward. When I did this in undergrad, we did it mostly on something like this, Mylar, and we had to take like an X-Acto knife and scrape off the ink if you made a mistake. And we were rendering like the lines here like bricks on like basic buildings, and we were graded based on like how good our bricks were inked. And I found that to be like depressing. I don't know what the point was, besides like torturing you into perfection. So you guys should try to be perfect as you can. Scratch that OCD itch we all have. But also know that we have Photoshop, we can adjust it, and this is your first time doing it. It might be a little bit messy. Or you can redo it, you can do it again. We're gonna, for the midterm, have like an inked planet section at least, and then next week we're gonna do assignment 6, which is 3 more models. And the week after that is assignment 7, which is gonna be a 3D view. So like an axonometric, like 3D view of the thing, and we're gonna ink that. And then we'll have the midterms. So we have like three inked drawings, ideally. Questions? Went way too long. One demo today. We'll do the little pinup now. Hopefully take a look at some of these. Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm happy to repeat this. Like Monday and Wednesday of next week is gonna be a working days. And so you're not expected to like just magically have this appear over the weekend. Get started, make a good effort on it, maybe get the pencil layer going, but then we can work through it together on Monday. Cool. Thanks for coming. Good to see you guys. Yeah.
From here. It's a dash on.
Yeah, so I'm cutting here and I would still see this like edge of that. So I did that, and it's like dotted line, like really thin. This wall, this guy down below, goes underneath this. And so I did them in dashed lines. So it's like a dash versus a dot. You could make up your own. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I need to do and all that.
Just 2 for this one. Just a cut plan and a cut section. You may find it helpful to do an elevation to get there. To there. It can just be a like this, like a construction drawing that's not perfected.
For the scale, how can you show me how you draw out your square using that scale?
Yeah, so you could just use a regular ruler on here, right? And then we know it's a 10-inch square, so I could do that. Or since we're using scale, if I measure my model, it's a little convoluted, but if I use 1/8 inch equals a foot, you see I'm putting it at 0 on the left side, and then I go over and it says 40. At the top. So then I can know, like, all right, if I'm going to 1/4 inch, I can put 0 on one end, and there's 40 right there. And then if I use a regular ruler, I can see that that's actually 10 inches. That makes sense. Yeah, so all the older architects I work with, they just use regular rulers. They don't use this. 'Cause just, yeah, you divide by two, divide by two, divide by two. Yeah.
Your license running, a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Already should do it. There are big ways to solve. Great. Yeah, I'm here. I don't know, being, but in terms of that, really, do appreciate it. So it's not a vibrant today. Well, it's been donated. Hour later. Yeah, we can do that. Really very happy. Yeah, you can inherit. How to put the fall in. Okay. Thank you. I down. Here is about made by the apple and here. Yeah. Every couple put on the house. Simple, north south. And I said, parts please simple. Like the bars of how it's being done. Every part. Every part. I suppose so. Let's see.